Welcome to Biz Bites, brought to you by Com Together, helping businesses like yours build their brand through telling amazing stories to engage and grow audiences on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Biz Bites. I have a wonderful guest with me. We were just talking about the fact that we probably have known each other for over 20 years was when we first did some work together. And the truth is we haven't actually connected for the longest time. And I'm really excited to have her a guest because she's been around websites and copywriting for a very long time. And it's going to be fabulous to have Katrina with us. So Katrina, if you'd like to introduce yourself formally to the audience.
Anthony, it is such a delight to be speaking to you again after so many years. I know we worked together very well 20 years ago. So I'm Katrina McKinnon and I'm the founder of CopySmiths.com. And what we do is we create content for people by people, and it's content that the search engines love. So organic traffic's not dead yet. AI hasn't taken over, but we create content that really resonates with an audience and mainly in the e-commerce space.
It's such an exciting area to be in. And that may be counterintuitive for many people who are thinking, oh, AI has just taken over. But I think, my personal opinion on a lot of AI is people are ticking a box with AI. They're saying, oh, we should use AI. So they've created a new kind of job for themselves to utilize AI and delivering stuff with no real idea on what they're delivering. And there's no uniqueness about it. It's just the same as everybody else.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of thoughts on that. One of the thoughts is I remember way back in 1989, at that point in time, we used to use we used to use bromide machines. So back in that time, we used to draw logos by hand. We would literally get a pen or a paintbrush and a white piece of paper, and we would draw the logo. And then we would use a $10,000 bromide machine to take a photo of that logo, and we would create a negative. That negative plate would then be sent off to the publishing houses, to the printing houses where you would then get your logo made or whatever it was. But it was this manual process, and those bromide machines were $10,000 each, let's say. As a result, I never knew any graphic designers back then, not a single graphic designer, they were quite rare. And, but nowadays we could throw a stick down the street and hit a graphic designer. There's that many of them around. And the catalyst for that was Photoshop. So in about 1993, Photoshop was made widely available. It was $895. So instead of being $10,000 for access to this machine that was very complicated that you had to learn how to use, it was $895. So it really revolutionized that industry and gave everyone a tool that made design accessible. And it's exactly what's going on with the AI revolution at the moment. The AIs such as ChatGPT and then the thin layer apps like Jasper, which use the AI to still produce text, those are just tools, and they're tools that allow very mediocre designers to produce a lot of $10 logos. So again, the internet is currently flooded, all these libraries, you can go and you can get a $10 logo. No worries, it was, took minutes to produce. No serious big companies use a $10 logo. They want their own brand, they want their own identity. But for a small business, for someone who's just starting out, maybe they want to sort of test their dog grooming business. They'll go and buy a $10 logo. It's a great way to get started. And so again, with the AI tools that create content, they're a good way to get started with a little bit of ideation and, a creative sort of a partner, a co-pilot, but they're certainly not the designer. They're not the true creative that resides, that the true creativity resides in a person's heart, not within Photoshop, for example. So I hope that makes sense.
No, 100%. I think one of the problems that many people do in creating content is they're not thinking about conveying their story. And I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in story, and that's what really connects us, is that relationship that you build based on the stories and your own experiences. And we can, for example, reflect on our time together 20 plus years ago, working in a different way. And we were talking about that just before we started the podcast, about the kind of the idea of what a website was 20 plus years ago, and that the way they were built, and the kind of intention for them, which has changed a lot. And I
Yeah.
think that there's so much that is missed by people who don't incorporate story into what they're doing in their own experiences, just ticking boxes, and this is how we do stuff, and this is what we do, and this is what you need to do. That's not what people want.
No, but it's also there is, to a certain extent, some box ticking that I think is useful. So if you were to sell, I don't know, a fountain pen, for example, if you were to sell a fountain pen, you might need an article on what is how to clean a fountain pen. That is known knowledge. It's widely agreed that you don't clean a fountain pen with, acid, that you use gentle, detergents, or you in a warm bath, or a sonic machine. It's widely known that you don't drag it through a river backwards. So that kind of content can be created with AI, because it does serve a purpose for a reader in your store. Let's say if you're selling fountain pens, it does have a purpose to that reader. And that can be created. But let's say I've got a new pen, and it's a super sparkle unicorn pen that shoots, that writes with glitter, and it's got a little torch on the end to make it easier to see what you're writing. And let's say I want to promote that pen to people with, I don't know, maybe with learning difficulties, who find the act of writing quite tricky. Maybe their motor skills aren't so great. And so as a mother, I would gift that pen to my child and say, here's this beautiful pen. I want to encourage you to write, so that you can learn the art of writing. So you can write your shopping list later. That sparkle pen unicorn with a torch on it that maybe whirs around and does X, Y, Z. You have to write about that. The AI can't write about that because it doesn't know about it, because it's a new product. And so Google and the LLMs, all the AIs like ChatGPT that are scraping the internet, they are desperately looking for information about our businesses, the products that we create and the services that we create. Everything that's new that we create as humans, those large language models and the scrapers are desperately looking for that new information, as are our customers and our readers. So there is this balance of this copy paste mentality that you're talking about, tick a box, I got all my content marketing done. The problem is with those people who confuse those two types of content, all of their content is going to go quiet. I firmly believe that their content won't show up in the search engines. Everything that Google's been doing lately is pointing towards building trust with your business identity, transparency, your online reputation, who you are, what you say, and how, the information that you share on the web is, and that's all this authentic voice thing that you're talking about, that you talk about in your business as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've been a firm believer for the longest time that the media often is what leads where we're going. And so by that, I mean that if you think about it, 30 plus years ago, and we didn't have the idea of, Foxtel and pay TV in general. And so we just sat down and watched whatever was on, and everyone had to be blanket, to try and target them. Now that's gone to the extreme of having, very specific channels. So, if you want to talk to people who are interested in cooking, you don't have to put it on a general, channel. You can actually go to lifestyle food and you can target them very specifically. That's one example. And I think what's really interesting about this is that, the lot of discussion about clickbait and all the rest of it over the last few years. But what the media do is they rehash stories to get more people to click on them, but they have to be 70% different. And I think that's one of the challenges, is that if you're taking content that is just out there from the internet and making minimal changes to it, then the risk, as you say, is that Google's going to say, well, that's the same as what is appearing everywhere else. It's not significantly different enough, so we're not going to count it. And I think that's if you want to cut through, you're going to have to
Mm.
change it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. But again, I think you and I are converts in that because we understand the space. We've got a more nuanced understanding of it. But I can completely understand that business owners see this new tool. I don't know. Do you remember like in the days when, literally we were building websites on like Front Page and, Dreamweaver? Remember Dreamweaver?
Oh, I do
That's
remember
what we
Dreamweaver. Yes.
that's what we were building those websites in that we were talking about before. Um, People would, when I was running a web agency, people would I literally had one client. His name was Greg. He came to me one time and he said, "Well, my nephew can build websites too, so why would I get you to do it?" And I gave him the analogy of, well, a dog can dig a hole in the ground. Is that how you'd like to be buried?
Mm.
Or would you like an undertaker who's actually going to, do it properly with a little bit of dignity? I don't know that was the best story at the time because he was a little confronted by it, but it's true, like people sort of still think, well, I'll just get this AI to churn it out. And they just don't see this difference between getting someone who actually cares about what that content ends up looking like. And that's where the resonance with an audience comes in.
I've had many Gregs over the years, but
Yeah.
had one recently where I said, I don't understand why we can't do all of these things ourselves. And I gave a different analogy where I said, well, it's like a house. You can put up the
Yeah.
blinds and you can paint the walls and do those things yourself. But if you want to get rid of a window, you can do it yourself. But, I'd probably be getting a builder to do it properly. It's up to you.
Yeah,
It's
knock
going to take
yourself
you.
out.
There's probably a YouTube video to tell you how to do it. But I take pot luck with it. It's not what I would be doing.
Yeah.
But it is that really difficult thing where I think that applies to a lot of creative spaces as well. And I think, even though web development is a technical thing in many respects, but there is an element of creativity to it. And I think there's often a lack of appreciation of the effort that's involved in being creative and finding the right solutions, and then your ability to actually deliver them relatively quickly because you're doing it all the time. And
Yeah.
people just think it's the scenario of like everyone thinks they're a photographer just because they have a phone in their pocket with a camera. Just because you have a
Yeah.
great camera doesn't make you a great photographer.
Yeah. One of the things I'll sort of like if we were sort of do photography tips, in content, one of the things I would say to people, listening, I would say to pull your content up another level above the AIs. Sure, use the AI to produce a draft, but I would say things like one of the things that we know from our work is that if you create a compelling introduction with a true story, with something that actually resonates with the reader, they will then stay on the page and keep reading. If you create an introduction to an article, let's say, I don't know, it's like how to handwriting, how to improve my handwriting ability with my fountain pen. If you say a statistic, 49% of people who use a fountain pen are better writers, no one cares, no one cares. Whereas if you tell a story about how some particular person, used their fountain pen to always create one of the Bronte sisters used their fountain pen to always create the most beautiful ideas. And in fact, this character, Lady Chatterley's lover came out of the use of this fountain pen sort of style. That is a story that resonates, and it also creates an echo with the brand. So then the reader says, well, I love the way they're speaking to me. And I love that story. And then you've got them engaged with that content piece. The other things we do then is as we go through the article, we will layer in customer testimonials. So it's not just us saying, oh, these fountain pens are great, from this seller. We're literally layering. We go and grab out of their Shopify stores real reviews from that store. And we we choose those reviews and say, well, this review resonates with the handwriting styles article. AI can't do that. Other things we do is we'll create tables. So we'll literally say, well, if you're new to, handwriting, you want to improve your handwriting, which are the 3 pens that are going to make that easier for you? Well, this one's got a heavier base. This one's got a heavier top end. And we will create a table that does a comparison. And again, AI is brilliant at giving us the initial structure for that and pulling out all the different product variations and helping us to discover those 3. But only a person can really tell you what it feels like to have the pen resting between your forefinger and your thumb, and whether it's a heavier weight or not. And so there's a long way for the AI to go. And again, it comes back to this analogy of Photoshop's brilliant for brilliant designers. But if you use it to churn out $10 logos, that's a completely different business model, which is also absolutely fine, but just don't get the two confused. So those are a couple of little tips that we use in our writing, just to differentiate it from the AI, because again, I believe Google is going to be sweeping through the internet very soon, and Google is going to say, this is all AI drivel, just generated for the mass. We'll just ignore that. We'll just ignore it. So even though it's costing you a few cents or $1 to generate that content, you're just wasting money.
I hope you've been enjoying the conversation so far. We look forward to bringing you part 2 in the next episode of Biz Bites. Biz Bites is brought to you by ComTogether for all your marketing needs, so you can build your brand, engage audiences on multiple platforms. Go to comtogether.com.au, follow the links to book an appointment for a free consultation.